so many key lessons, key questions that will shape the world henceforth. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Is our microphone on and running? Okay. As earlier noted, let us proceed with our program. We will right away get the highlights of the State of the World Population Report. It is clearly themed a world, 8 billion world, infinite possibilities, but there is something else that comes. A case for rights and choices. What will give us the infinite possibilities? And at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, may I call upon the country representative, UNFPA, Dr. Mary Otieno, to highlight what is therein. Did you introduce yourself? My name is Josephine Omnidejane, and here at UNFPA I handle innovation. Thank you so much. So let me also recognize you, always supporting us, representing the ambassador of Netherlands. Thank you so much for coming. Madam Cindy, you're always with us. You were with me yesterday at the conference signing, so thank you so much. Thank you, Betty, for always being with us. And thank you all organizations and young people that have come to be with us. Thank you, UNFPA staff, organizations, media. Thank you so much for covering this. So I really want to welcome you all to the launch of the State of the World Population Report. UNFPA, the United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency, has been producing this flagship State of the World Population Report annually since 1978. Each edition covers and analyzes developments and trends in population and reproductive health and rights in specific regions, countries, and population groups, shining a light on emerging issues and exploring the challenges and opportunities they present for international development. So each year it's a different theme. This year, 2023, the report is titled 8 Billion Lives, Infinite Possibilities, the Case for Rights and Choices. The same as last year, when the population hit 8 billion. As you may already be aware, this report was launched globally on 19th April 2023 by the UNFPA Executive Director, Dr. Natalia Kanu. Here in Uganda, we are launching it today to highlight the opportunities and possibilities accompanying this historic milestone, and to give the report more publicity and ensure the message cascades to the lowest level. The world population is radically shifting, says the report, and certain demographic megatrends are taking shape in different parts of the world. The report identifies rising population anxiety and urges radical rethink of how countries address changing demographics. New data reveals population anxieties are widespread, and governments are increasingly adopting policies aimed at raising, lowering, or maintaining fertility rates. So others are raising, others are lowering, and others want to maintain. But efforts to influence fertility rates are very often ineffective and can erode women's rights, because they are doing this all without considering women's rights. We want to raise population so women will have to give birth. We want to lower women, you will have to curtail your reproductive desires, isn't it? So our human family 8 billion strong. We are saying to build thriving and inclusive societies, irrespective of population size, we must rethink how we talk about and plan for population change, shifting the conversation to rights and choices, how population numbers are framed, and urging politicians and media to abandon overblown and alarmist narratives about population costs. Instead of asking how fast people are reproducing, leaders should ask whether individuals, especially women, are able to freely make their own reproductive choices. A question whose answer too often. In November 2022, the human family surpassed 8 billion, the largest population the world has ever known. At the same time, the global average fertility rate is the lowest. The population is at its highest, but fertility at its lowest. See the dynamics there? We are living in a period of extreme demographic diversity. 2/3 of people live in a place where people are reproducing less from one generation to the next due to lower fertility. Others live in countries experiencing vigorous population growth. Some countries have a median age of around 50. Median age is 50. So these are old populations. And others around 15, like Uganda, our median population. So extremes. Everyone wants to know what all this is, and without a clear answer, there is a serious danger that human rights, and particularly reproductive rights, will be undermined. That is already happening in which calls for limiting family size, bans on contraception in public hospitals, women being urged to step away from their careers to become mothers. Yet women are also fighting back to establish and re-establish their rights and entitlement where those rights have eroded, hence changing our narrative. Too many, too few. The report has two clear messages. First, we need to shatter the myths about population. Many say the world is overpopulated, blame fertility rates for the climate crisis, for instance. In a recent survey by UNFPA, it was found that the most commonly held views were that the global population is too large and fertility rates too high. According to that kind of logic, global warming is supposedly driven by proliferation of human beings on a planet of finite resources. Yet this fallacy holds the wrong to account. Just 10% of the world's population is responsible for fully half of all greenhouse gas emissions. And they are not in the high fertility regions. The countries with the highest fertility rates contribute least to global warming and suffer most from it. These population myths distract us from a real and powerful story of progress. All populations are aging, including Uganda's. Life expectancy is rising. So largely because we are living longer lives. Since 1990, average life expectancy has increased by about a decade. The fertility rate varies because women are increasingly able to accept. The report's second message is that we have been asking the wrong question. The question isn't whether the human population is too large or too small. The question is, can everyone exercise their fundamental human right to choose the number and sadly the answer is a resounding. Our latest data show that 4%, almost half of women, are unable to exercise bodily autonomy, unable to make choices about contraceptive care, and whether and with whom to have sex. And globally, nearly half of all pregnancies are unintended. Yet many women would like to have more children and are unable to. Those that are. The proportion of women who are actually able to meet their personal aspirations is as low as 1/4 in many low and middle income. For those who meet. The report reiterates that sexual reproductive health and rights is not only about reproduction, but it's about development. It's about rights, not health. If governments understand that, then achievement of the sustainable development goals. Countries cannot grow economically unless they invest in their population. This therefore may require robust family. Robust because you are not only looking at limiting, some want children, isn't it? Yeah, so usually in our countries we want to limit, but that is not the case. I know Uganda is developing this policy on reproductive. So we are going that route. We have to have a robust country family planning. However, family planning must not be used as a tool for achieving fertility targets. It is a tool for empowering individuals coupled with sexuality education. Women should be able to choose if, when, and how many children they would like to have, free from the coercion. The report further highlights sexual violence as the most violent expression of gender inequality and which remains a global concern. We continue to experience gender inequalities and inequities as experienced in access to education by the girl child, paid employment, leadership, and decision making. Many women still face gender-based violence and other harmful practices. Inequality is the problem. Inequality in who we count and whether or not we think they count. The report shows that 500,000 births every year takes place among girls aged 10 to 14 years old. 500,000 births among children. Girls so young they might not realize they can even get pregnant. Girls too young to consent to sex. Girls married off or abused or both. Women empowerment is the bedrock of sustainable development. However, women face multiple challenges brought about by cultural norms and practices. As a result, child marriage, harmful practices, and other forms of discrimination prevail. So what does this mean for Uganda? In Uganda today, development frameworks and the national population policy emphasize quality of life of the population and not the size. Remember, Uganda signed on to the ICPD, it was one of the countries, and it's about the quality of life, it's not about the numbers and targets. As we emphasize access to sexual and reproductive health information and services without discrimination, there are fears within the Uganda population that this will lead to underpopulation and eventually population extinction. The fact is that if Uganda was to achieve the level of fertility at which a population exactly replaces itself from one generation to the next, requiring an average of 2.1 children, that is the number of children you need to replace a population per woman, it would take the country 60 to 70 years before the population size will stabilize. So there should be no worry of extinction, isn't it? The population will continue to grow. This is due to the inbuilt population momentum as a result of high levels of fertility and a high concentration of young people who are yet to enter their childbearing ages. So as long as we have these many young people who are in their reproductive age group and the fertility is also desired, the population will continue to grow. There is no extinction. And you only need 2 children for that, not 10, not 20. So the fallacy and the myths continue. 70% of the population is under 30 years in Uganda, and this presents a demographic window of opportunity for the country to realize its dividend if the right investments in education, health, skilling, job creation, and employment are made. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, for far too long we have only interrogated the numbers but not asked what women want. Let's finally start asking the right questions. The question is about inequality. It's about rights and choices. Who has them, who doesn't? In the end, population is about people. Evidence abundantly shows that when people are availed of opportunities, when they are healthy, educated, and able to exercise their rights, individuals and societies flourish. When the rights, dignity, and equal value of all people are truly respected and upheld, then we unlock a future of infinite possibilities. Thank you so much. A bigger round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Dr. Mary. That was quite clear. The key messages are 2, and the questions are clear. The stakeholders are present. The influencers are also present, by the way. I noticed Doreen, I noticed Mr. Kui as well. They are making things happen. Let's retweet, let's like, let's follow the streaming cast media that is happening live. And for our members that are online, we are commemorating and launching the State of the World Population Report. We bring it down to the level of the nation, Uganda, where UNFPA country office is actually working with a mandate to deliver a world where every pregnancy is wanted, where every childbirth is safe, and where every young girl's potential is actually uplifted and met. We work very closely with the National Population Council, which almost all even fully holds the demographic of the issues of demographic in this country. You will note as well that this year we'll have a census, and I know it flows in that direction. May I welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the Director General to share his remarks on behalf of government. Dr. Joe Hamisi.
Thank you. I think after Mary, we don't need more speeches.
You are the government.
Our host, the UNFPA country representative, Dr. Mary Tiano. the representative of the ambassador of the King of the Netherlands. I see a number of colleagues here, Daniel, Betty, Moses, and the front line, but also the young people around, and also the media, the very important media, which is one of the reasons why we're here today. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of government, I want to thank UNFPA for inviting government to participate in this important event. Yesterday, we were together with the Minister of Finance as well, when we were signing the compact, and I think that was an important event. Today is yet another day when we observe that the world has reached 8 billion, and the theme is 8 billion lives, definite possibilities, the case for rights and choices. As you may recall, on November 15th last year, the world population did hit the 8 billion people, the highest, as you have said, the highest you have seen in history. This is a remarkable milestone in the human development, because the world of 8 billion presents both challenges but as well as opportunities that our people can benefit from. It is thus essential to note that 8 billion people on our planet, 2/3 live in the aging countries, as we have said, with below investment fertility. Therefore, countries like Uganda, with large populations of young people, benefit if we build globally competitive human capital. That's our only chance. We must invest in our young population, equip our future labor force with the cutting-edge skills, because job markets are increasingly demanding those people with the higher levels of human capital and significantly advanced cognitive and social behavioral skills that machines cannot fully mimic. So we must be bold, innovative, committed to achieving our development aspirations by doing the right thing. Our ability, our country's abilities to thrive in a modern global economy of 8 billion people hinges on its ability to invest smartly in our young people to ensure they are equipped to take on jobs in the future. Some of them which we don't know what their nature is like. We need to note that whereas the world population has grown to 8 billion people, Uganda's population has grown from 9.5 million in 1969. I don't know where all of you were, some of you to current 47, about 47 million people. Our life expectancy has, fortunately, risen, has increased from 43 years in 1991 to 63 years currently. This, I have said it before, this is remarkable because for any country to add 20 years to its life expectancy in one generation is truly remarkable. Even you people who are fairly advanced in Europe, even Europe didn't achieve that because it's not an easy thing to do. So we are very lucky that we have been able to do this. Of course, the 63 years is not good enough, but it is a marker of what may be coming to us in the future as we move on. These remarkable, modest achievements are a result of government programs like universal immunization, improved health services, including family planning, taxation, collective development, as well as the improved living standards, including nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, in Uganda, harnessing the demographic dividend through investments in rights and choices of young people is critical as the theme of the state of the world population shows. With over 75% of the population under the age of 30, there is a significant opportunity for Uganda to benefit from the demographic dividend if needs of the young people are met. This demographic dividend is not automatic. This includes access to education, skills, healthcare, employment opportunities, and the ability to make choices about their sexual and reproductive health. Investments in rights and choices of young people can lead to increased productivity, improved health outcomes, and more remarkable economic growth of the economy. However, significant challenges in Uganda still need to be addressed to harness the demographic dividend. These include addressing gender inequality, improving access to education and providing skills for these young people, provision of better health care, better health reproductive and health services, but also increasing job opportunities for young people so that they can increase their incomes. As I mentioned earlier, the world of 8 billion presents challenges too. Rapid population growth makes eradicating of poverty, combating hunger and malnutrition, and increasing coverage of health and education systems and services more complex. In addition, continued population growth gives heightened urgency to efforts to ensure economic development while protecting and preserving the environment. In this regard, it is worth noting that in contrast, countries like Uganda have a fast-growing population. We have significant lower emissions of rates than developed countries, and I look at you on this issue so that we are together on this, with high consumption rates. But unfortunately, we suffer disproportionately from the effects of climate change. I think some of the things that have happened in Uganda recently, including my own place, the floods and things that we didn't see before, these are examples of telling us that we need to make sure that together, developed and developing, we are working together. Therefore, we need to continue working with our government partners to address the challenges of climate change and improve the quality of life of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, I am happy that this year's State of the World Population Report calls for advancing gender equality and empowering women. As you all know, despite instituting policies that promote gender equality and inclusive growth, we still face challenges of low contraceptive uptake, child marriages, teenage pregnancies, and school dropouts. Thus, we must work together to find lasting solutions to these persistent challenges. When discussing the population, we often take focus on numbers, and I think Mary talked about this. I must mention that we must look beyond the numbers and focus on protecting people and the planet, starting with the most vulnerable. What matters most is not the size of the population, but the population, the quality of the population age structure, which is also the focus, which was the focus of Uganda's 2020 national population policy. So as we plan for the future, we need to be mindful that accelerating the demographic transition is critical to build a fair and more resilient society. In this regard, meeting the SDGs, especially those related to health, education, and gender equity, will play a significant role in harnessing the Accordingly, the National Population Council will continue to advocate for increased health, education, women empowerment, job creation, and other related investments. Overall, the theme of 8 billion lives, infinite opportunities, the case for rights and choices, highlights the need for increased investments in human rights, gender equality, and access to essential services and economic opportunities in Uganda. By ensuring that all individuals have the chance to exercise their rights and choices fully, Uganda can unlock the potential of its young population to drive sustainable development and prosperity. On behalf of the government of Uganda, I would like to congratulate UNFPA for organizing the 2023 State of the World Population Report. We should also thank our government partners, including, of course, UNFPA, but also the Netherlands Embassy in Uganda for supporting the population program and other government development initiatives. I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Jotham Musinguzi. Another round of applause. As UNFPA, Dr. Jotham, we are honored that we have an opportunity to work with such an enabling environment with the National Population Council.
May I, ladies and gentlemen, re-echo the words of our Executive Director, Dr. Natalia Kanim. She says, in the report, women's bodies should not be held captive to population targets. She continues to note that to build thriving and inclusive societies, regardless of the population size, we must radically rethink how we talk about and plan for population change. In what she says, clearly Dr. Jotha Musinguzi notes that we must become bold, we must become innovative and very mindful towards what we do regarding the population. Thank you, Dr. Jotha Musinguzi. Ladies and gentlemen, again, it is such an honor to have a representation from an array of our development partners. And here today with us from the Embassy of the Kingdom of Netherlands, a place I have been very, very privileged to work very closely with previously before I came here. We have the First Secretary of the Sexual Reproductive Health and Rights, Ruth Van but it's a very beautiful name. You let us see, just as my name. We are honored to have you here, and please may you leave your remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you to our hosts, UNFPA, of course, particularly country UNFPA missionary, but also thank you, Daniel, and all the other UNFPA colleagues that are in the room. It's a very honor to be together, of course, with Jotham, Betty, from the National Population Council. Also, a good morning to all the other representatives, I think many youth representatives. Wonderful that you're here, members from the press. Thank you for inviting the Netherlands Embassy, for whom, yes. Thank you. For whom, as Dr. Jotha already said, population policies are really, really very important, close to our hearts. I'm very honored to be able to represent our ambassador in the world. And it's also nice maybe to mention that also in the Netherlands, of course, this report has been also launched and shared with our Director of Social Development of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs by your colleagues of the UNFPA in the Netherlands. And it's really nice to be part of the global event, which is happening in so many countries, and then bringing it back to the country level and the realities at the country level, and also really discussing on what it means for national policies. So it has been mentioned numerous times already today, and one could also not have missed it, I think, last year, with all the media attention it has received. Last November 2022, the 8th billionth world citizen was welcomed.
I vividly remember when the world's 7th billionth world citizen was welcomed. It must have been 2011, and with colleagues from the organization I was then working with, we went to public places in Amsterdam and we treated people with the typically Dutch treat that one gets when a child is born to celebrate the birth. It's with the anise, so which is very good for the mother to take. And also then, the 7 billion led to a strong debate and statements in the media. And I can assure you, when we were walking around in Amsterdam and, you know, treating all those people with this specific treat, I can assure you that the pedestrians we took by surprise, they would genuinely respond concerned and confused. Why one would even think about celebrating this? So back then, and still now, I think the nuance in the discussion is missing, or at least it is insufficient. And from that experience, but also based on the many discussions since, with my family, with my friends, with my colleagues, you know, with a lot of many people within the sector, I realized that a lack of knowledge and understanding about population dynamics is one important explanation for this. And I think it's therefore that this specific report, with the inspiring title 8 Billion Lives, Infinite Possibilities, is of such importance. It's an especially useful tool for having this discussion and informing people with up-to-date data and evidence and a comprehensive analysis. Policies, as mentioned by Marius already, policies aimed at raising, lowering, maintaining fertility rates take away attention from global issues the world is faced with, like climate change, migration, poverty, and inequality. These global issues require complex and politically sensitive decisions. And instead, many population policies simplistically shift the problem and actually shift the blame or the responsibility to women by saying, if the population grows, women just should have fewer children. If it shrinks, okay, they should have more children. But this undoubtedly leads to restrictions on the sexual and reproductive health and the rights of women and girls. Fertility rates are neither the problem nor the solution. So, and I think this report challenges the simplistic and linear thinking and the many myths around population, with high standard research by excellent researchers and by connecting demographics, migration, population, and particularly human rights. And I request, or actually I urge the government of Uganda, all the relevant ministries, and I think there are many working with populations, to not only take note of this report, not just look, a bit at the statistics which are included in the report, but really reflect it. Really reflect on it, use it. Use it for strategizing. Use it for really grounding the policies, and to use this potential in the demographic dividend in the current but also in the upcoming National Population Development Plan 4. Surely population trends have a significant impact, but as said, the nuance is also needed to understand them. And the conclusion and the warning in this year's State of the World Population Report is that we need to look beyond overall population numbers and fertility rates. As mentioned by both of you, instead of asking whether the rates are too high, whether they're too low, we really need to ask whether people can realize their sexual and reproductive health and rights. If they can't, we need to ask, what does it take to be able to do so? We all know that the benefits of improved sexual and reproductive health and rights, they are so many. Better health outcomes, gender equality, and of course social and economic well-being of individuals, families, communities, countries, the world as a whole. I was thinking, so maybe we should not think of the world with a population of 8 billion, but instead think of a world with one individual, with his, her, or them unique potentials, their unique circumstances, talents, peculiarities, and that one special person, and that times 8 billion. This, to emphasize the uniqueness of each individual person and the wealth of the 8 billion unique individuals and the opportunity that they can provide. To be able to really benefit from these opportunities, there are many critical conditions, but I like to mention 3. First, to change these opportunities into realities, the root causes of inhibiting power structures and inequalities need to be addressed. And in line with this, the Netherlands has increased its efforts into gender equality. And this is also why the Netherlands is developing a feminist foreign policy. Secondly, benefiting from demographic trends for development, and thus harnessing the demographic dividend requires social, cultural, economic conditions and good governance to be in place. And it's therefore that the Netherlands is very pleased that through the work with UNFPA and with partners like the National Population Council, we are able to support Uganda's demographic dividend roadmap. Then lastly, if we really can look at the individuals instead of the numbers, we will be able to deploy contextually relevant strategies which are considering the diversities of people and their diverse needs, wishes and realities, and by doing so ensuring equitable and inclusive development. And this is exactly what our global health strategy and the Africa strategy sets out to do. But it's also exactly how the Netherlands, with the support it provides to programs like the ANSWER programs of UNFPA, puts this strategy into practice. We, the Netherlands, do this with the conviction that this will contribute progressing towards a world in which every individual of those 8 billion is able to thrive. Thank you. $8 billion, a world of infinite possibilities. An honor to have you representing the development partners and with the work that you do to support the ANSWER project that we execute as UNFPA, touching the lives of the vulnerables and impacting the work of young people, young women, within the work of, the development between, the nexus between development and humanitarian. Thank you so much. Another round of applause. As UNFPA, it is the 3 zeros that matter to us when we deliver that world. And it has been clearly noted throughout. The 0 unmet needs to family planning, 0 gender-based violence and harmful practices, and 0 maternal deaths. May I request at this point in time, members of the Holy State media, because I know there are questions that you may need to actually ask at this point. It is a press launch. Please, PML, please come here. That is Nelson Mandela, the younger version of Nelson Mandela. Please come and ask your question.
Thank you so much.
PML is from PML and PML.
All right, thank you so much.
PML. One of the first virtual platforms online. They are actually reporting this online. We have another community agenda. Everything is flying online. Please like, retweet, follow Instagram, Snapchat. We are there as well as UNFPA. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I actually have only 2 questions. One for you, Dr. Singzi. Accordingly, 24% of women and girls actually cannot say no to sex. What does this mean to a country like Ghana? And actually, what is the percentage of Ghana's population which is as a result of unwanted pregnancies? Then the other is for you, Madam Rep. UNFPA's report actually urges media to abandon narratives of population homes. But then again, I understand that UNFP has made several strides to make sure that there is a control on reproduction rate. Isn't this contradiction?
So we will answer you later, but
May I request we take a few more questions and some more questions, please, from our young people organizations. I know FAO, I know you have. Yes, please. Please come.
I am Zilubwam Abdul Nasir. Recently, we heard about the program of, if possible, to make young people in schools to access family planning. I don't know where that program ended, because we are seeing most girls in the age of 13, 14, 15, they are getting pregnancies. I don't know whether it is able to push that policy so they can also access family planning whilst in school.
Thank you. Girls Not Rights, would you like to? Another question? Please stand up and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karim from the Imun. Just have just a clarity like on the 8 billion given award. Did the COVID-19 contribute to this?
A little louder.
Did COVID-19 contribute to this?
Thank you so much. Thank you from Nation Media Group. Yes, from representation of Girls Not Rights.
Yes, good morning. I think my question is around the lives of young people, especially in the rural areas. We know that majority of the girls in the rural areas cannot access some of the health services, and many of them are prone to getting pregnant, but also getting married. And also we seem to have a huge need to address some of those gaps that we have. We want to know, I think, especially from the government, what's the plan of the government to support these girls across the country? We talk about Kampala, across the country. In my own district, Habaroi, that probably go there and find the girls are not prone to pregnancy and child marriage. And I think, and also in other areas where we have been, the services seem to be very limited. And I think as we celebrate these numbers and we're yearning for quality population, what is the government doing to be concrete now to support these girls?
Thank you. Please, the last question for now. Oh, second last question.
Thank you so much, moderator. My name is Charles. We're working with that. My question to maybe Dr. Msuguzi is about the policy. We know that the age of consent is 18 years, but most of the pregnancies that we have for young people come from 14, 13, 15. And we cannot be able to receive the services because of that limitation to the policy when it comes to contraception utilization. So I don't know what we are doing around that policy to ensure that at least even still a 15-year-old girl can easily go to the facility and receive the services.
Thank you for that question, and we wind up the first set of questions from Uganda Youth and Adolescent Health.
Thank you very much. Praise Mwesiga is my name, and also the Youth Technical Advisor for the Fashion Planning Activity. So my question is around the teenage pregnancies that have been and continue, but also with a surge from COVID-19, and we know that UNFPA is taking kind of lead in addressing these issues. So where do we as youth organization come in to see that these efforts are pushed, as youth organizations, we seem to have the young people at our tips and seem to support here and there, especially at the grassroots. So where do we come in to support this?
Thank you so much. And your presence here is already a testimony that you are part of this mandate. Thank you so much. We may now have the questions answered. Perhaps starting with the government. Main questions are flowing towards the country representative.
Yeah, I think they should have some for.
And the technical people can answer. We have technical teams who actually work on those issues, so they are in the crowd.
So the first question was about 24% of girls who cannot say no to sex. I don't know where you got your percentage from, but maybe you have, there are studies, there are surveys and things like that. I'm not so sure that I know the figure myself, but since you are quoting that, that's good. And what can we do for them? Government, and I think this is going to go to number of other questions about, some of you have heard about this, whether Uganda has a policy on comprehensive sexuality education abroad. And if you still have this question in your mind, the government of Uganda is still consulting about what services and information can go to the young people. The government knows that there are young people who are even below the age of consent of 18, including these days, kids who are starting to menstruate, girls who are starting to menstruate, even before they are 10 years, 9, 10, 11, 12. And once they start menstruating, obviously that means they are capable of getting pregnant if they have unprotected sex. But the point that I'm making here is that the government is still consulting with the various stakeholders. There was a sort of a policy that came out, but it was contested by some religious leaders and other communities. And they didn't think that government should approve that. So the discussion is still going on. But also government is aware that these young people, they need information and they need services as well. So the idea is how do you agree on how you are going to do this? And there has been contestation from religious leaders and others as well. This issue came up even at the UN. Betty and I, we traveled to the UN for the CPD, the Commission on Population, and we were also with the minister in charge of planning. And the question came up, what are we doing about this? But as you know, it is not only Uganda which is contesting on this, other countries in Africa and Europe and everywhere. And you also know, even the United States, they are not agreed on it. Some are conservative, others are not. So it's not something that you can say everybody agrees on, whether you're Muslim or Catholic, Protestant, depending upon also how conservative you are. Like some of us being coming from the western part of Uganda, I know there are issues where we have conservative views and we are struggling with this. So the government is still consulting and they come out with this. But the important message to know is that the government is aware that these people need, some of them need age-appropriate information, but there are definitely those who will need services as well. But the blueprint, the policy has not yet come out, and at some point this will be done. And I hope that will respond to a number of other sort of questions that were raised. So regarding early pregnancy and early marriages and what government services, how does government support these young people out there to get this? One is to make sure that we have discussed with the religious leaders and trying to discourage them to, some of these religious leaders are more believable where they come from, the cultural leaders. They should give out messages and they should not be presiding over marriages of young underage girls. But as you know, government can say that, but there are also people who behave differently in their own circumstances. We have witnessed marriages where religious leaders who know better also preside over these marriages. And so these are some of the things that we need to take up. So these are, the government has pronounced itself. Please be helpful, be part of government so that we discuss this. But where they also happen, if a young girl is already pregnant, teenage pregnancy, then the Ministry of Health should also be able to give support services when it has happened. But again, the policies that we are talking about, sexuality education and others, and making sure the services are available to everybody who needs them. This is where prevention can also take place so that young girls don't have to get pregnant too early. If we can do the prevention, well and good, and I think that should be the starting point. But where it is not possible, then the pregnancies and deliveries should also be safe. So the Ministry of Health and other stakeholders should be able to come and do that. So those are the government efforts along the way. Of course, I must say in some areas, obviously, we are less than adequate, but those are the efforts that are out there.
Thank you, Dr. Jotham. Yes. Clearly articulated. Dr. Mary.
So I can add quickly. So the first gentleman from EMF, anyway, so the 25% of girls get pregnant, but that is all data from 2016. So we don't know whether that still holds. There's a new DHS, there's a new demographic and health survey. We will see whether that is increasing, stabilizing, or going down. So that is the number of people, young girls who are getting pregnant. In terms of your question on the 24% who do not say no, what I can say is that there are a number of things. Clearly, the report actually talks about that. While we are talking about, you have policymakers, you have politicians who are deciding on what these young girls and young boys need. So they are not giving them rights, they are not giving them any choice. They will debate for life. While girls get pregnant, they are getting, early, married early, to decide on semantics, whether it's comprehensive sexuality education or sexuality education. Call it anything, but young people need information, they need skills, and they need services. That is as black and white as it can be. But we are talking about now semantics of whether be it comprehensive, not or not. While our girls are getting pregnant, they are missing out. And this country is suffering. Countries are suffering. So that is, the report is talking about that in a nutshell, that really we are not giving individuals rights, choices, information that they need. We are not investing in our population. That is all I can say. I'm not government, but that is what I can say, that really our young people need information, skills, and services because of data clearly shows they need it. So as long as we continue debating and this is happening, we are not going to realize the demographic dividend. We are not going to realize the development that we need. So that is the message I can only give. But the other thing is also the role of boys and men. The girls cannot say no. Why can't boys say no to sex? Why is it the burden on women? Why is the burden always on women and girls? Why aren't you restraining yourselves? The men, the boys. I mean, really, these are questions that we must ask. The burden is always on the girl, so I think that is the wrong question to ask, is that everybody has to be responsible. Men, boys, girls, women. So that is another one. On UNFPA and population control, there is no such thing. As we left population control in 1994 in Cairo, where we stopped talking about numbers and controlling populations and looking at population as, in terms of people, in terms of equality, in terms of choice and services and health, and therefore family planning, spacing. Nobody talks about control of any population. Completely. So that is not right. Then the access to family planning in schools, the policy has to allow that. The policy hasn't allowed, but there are services within communities and with civil society organizations, and young people can access those services. And that goes to your question, the young lady who talked about what can youth organizations do. What do you do? I think I have to throw that question to you. What are you doing with young people? What do you do with them? If you are a youth organization, what are you doing with young people? You should provide them with the right information, services, empower them with knowledge and skills and the right information. That is your role. Yeah, the government also has a role to put the policies in place so that they are not coming to stop you from doing your work. But I don't think they do. You don't go to the civil society organizations to tell them what they can do or should not do. So really, you must take up that role and really serve the young people. As youth, young people serve other young people better than adults. They understand each other. The peers, community-based distribution of contraceptives. You can do that, and so you really need to step up and do that work. Whether COVID contributed to the 8 billion, who can answer that? No, a population doesn't grow in a year or in 2 years because of something. Population grows over years, and so COVID may have contributed to mortality in countries and seen maybe mortality increase, but it was say a snapshot in a long period of time. So I don't think COVID had a direct impact on the 8 billion. It had a direct impact on countries and their mortality rates, but not the 8 billion. child marriages and pregnancies. Somebody in our staff, among our staff, can talk about what we do with cultural leaders, the ordinances, working with, Netherlands on ELA clubs. So there are a number of things that we do that we cannot explain now, but we are doing. The problem is that they are not to scale. So we are in a few districts, a small place, reaching 30, 40 adults. I mean, really, for how long? It has to be national. It has to be, the investment has to be big, and it has to be national. And that's where we should aim, and that's where the government comes in, the private sector, donors also increasing their investments, and all of us working together. What we are doing, good work, but it is not enough. But it's being done, and our staff can add information.
Thank you, Dr. Mary. Dr. Moses will actually substantiate regarding the questions. Dr. Moses is the program coordinator, sexual reproductive health and integration. Dr. Moses, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I like the questions because they show that most of us are aware about these issues, especially the sexual and reproductive health issues affecting the adolescents and young people. Maybe I'm just going to clarify a few figures. Someone was asking about the population as a result of unwanted pregnancies. On an annual basis, the School of Public Health conducts a survey, performance monitoring action. And the data for last year indicates that nearly half of the most recent pregnancies are not unwanted, but they are unintended. To be exact, 46% of the most recent pregnancies in the Ugandan population are unintended. And 62.9%, approximately 63 out of 100 pregnancies in the adolescents 15 to 19 are unintended. So those survey figures from PMK that is done on an annual basis. And of course it highlights the importance of availing the contraceptives to the population. It also highlights the importance of the informed choices and the rights to the women and adolescents. And of course it clearly highlights the gaps and the challenges at hand. And Dr. Ben has been talking about having effective and innovative approaches, but only being implemented in the pockets of the country, a few districts, a few communities, and we're not implementing them to scale. The government of Uganda and UNFPA and its partners is actually implementing a lot, is doing out a lot to ensure that the young population, the women and the men and everyone is accessing the SRHR services broadly. And you realize, I think a few of the challenges around the points have been discussed, some of the barriers that we still have. But as a country, we have a number of strategic documents and guidelines that allow young people to access a range of SRHR services. What I would say is that we have a national sexuality education framework that was approved in 2018 and has been guiding the rollout of sexuality education within schools. And we'll talk about some of the challenges for the out of school. But you realize that on the Ministry of Health side, we have health guidelines in place that allow us to increase access and also create demand for SRHR services, targeting the young people. There are a number of innovations that we are currently implementing. And during the COVID era, the number of innovative approaches that came up, which we should be putting to scale. For example, I think how many of us have heard of the self-injection for contraceptives? That is very popular amongst the young people. If these people don't know the self-injection, the Cyanabis. Yes. How many of us know the self-injection, the Cyanabis? A few hands. Cyanabis, we have a range of contraceptives that are within the powers of young people to administer. Self-injection approaches. For example, the oral contraceptives. Those pills. Just get to the drug shop, the pharmacy, to a clear leader in the community, and then you pick those. Condoms. These are readily available. If the importance is for us to be able to ask for them and consistently use them. But then we are enriching the mix with injectables. And injectables, we have the Cyanapris. Cyanapris can be administered by the provider or a VHT at the community level, but you can administer it yourself. It's one of the popular methods that gives you protection for up to 3 months. We have trained a number of VHTs, a number of young people, peer leaders at the community level. Of course, we thank the Netherlands government under the ANSWER program, we've been able to roll out many of these innovative approaches at the community level to enrich the method mix. We want to go beyond the condoms, we want to go beyond the oral contraceptives to make sure that these methods are readily available. And also putting to scale. We even have the work with Jumia on the issue for reproductive health communities. And many of these innovations came through during the COVID period. And these approaches are readily available, and the time is for us to put them to scale. The other thing I need to mention is we still have a lot of social and gender norms around the community. There are barriers to the young people. And of course, the engagement with the different organizations, the gatekeepers at the community level, the CSOs, the groups of young people. Everyone is very key if you're going to deal with barriers regarding the updates. And of course, we then talked about empowering the young people to make informed choices. This is something that we need to do all the time. UNFPA, together with its partners, we are working to incorporate adolescent-friendly elements within the routine health services. And not only at the health facility, but also within the communities. So that we don't even have specific corners where young people can go. But routinely, wherever you're reaching out for the services, adolescent-friendly elements are part and parcel of our work. One of the areas where we're not doing well as a country is in terms of creating demand for these services. And also making sure that we're investing more within social and behavior change elements of the programming. And as young people and youth-led organizations, I probably that's an area where you need to be part and parcel of the overall programming for the respective communities where you are working, for the target populations that we are reaching. How do we popularize what works and what doesn't work? How do we be part of the creation of demand and ensuring that ultimately all of us are working towards empowering the young people and they appreciate their rights and they are able to make informed choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moses. A round of applause for Dr. Moses. Our specialist for adolescent youth, is there anything you may need to add? Anne Sizomo? She doesn't say. Before the special.
Please. I think what I would mention is on around the whole school approach and then the access. I think when it comes to sexuality education, it's always the issue around the context in which we work. There is what is in the policy, there is also the practice. But as UNFPA works very closely from both sides, the upstream around the policy, I think right now where we are with the school health policy, we'll be hoping within this financial year, because it has gone up to the top management within the ministry. That is the highest milestone in 20 years of it. So we believe that from the ministry, there's the high hopes that the cabinet will approve this. So that will give us the environment. But within that, as the ministry and different stakeholders, the whole school approach is actually what is being used. That we look at what we can provide in the school environment and what the young person will get at the health facility, and then what the young person can get in the community. So it's not, the school is not looked as the only place where everything must be provided. So that is also the Ugandan approach. We can critique what is working, what is not working, but
But within there, we have strengthened the referral and how young people can get the information. And now we have the SRH booklets, which the support of Netherlands, the ministry approved, and now they are available to be rolled out or reprinted as the ministry approved, and they are quite popular in terms of accessing the information. So there are things that are going on. Maybe they are not popularized, but we have to work within that context, which keeps on changing. But the young people are growing, and then they cannot wait for everything to be perfect. So within that, we have to also keep on being innovative and working within the context, but ensuring that by the end of the day, the young people can have information as well as be able to make choices within our context.
Let me also sit here, let me put a question to you and to Moses. As government policy said, if a young person goes to service, they should not be given.
No.
So whereas the government policy is not as promoting, as clear as it should be, it has that lacuna which you can take advantage of. And people should continue to take advantage of that. And you people who are leading these groups, you should be able to make sure that is also done. That is something. When I was practicing medicine many years ago, as a physician gynecologist, the law does not allow me to procure an abortion. But if somebody comes in with an abortion going on already, I will use my technical knowledge to complete it and make it safe. And nobody, no lawyer will take me to task on that matter, because the law is very clear. I have completed an abortion to make it safe. And the law protects me as a legal, as a protection. But contrary to what people think, that I cannot start an abortion. But once it has started, either naturally or whoever has that, I can be helpful and make sure that the person does that. And these are things which are there, and the practitioners, the leaders like you should guide the communities to make sure that we take advantage of those types of things. Of course, I wish the law is very clear, is allowing abortion or is allowing comprehensive sexual education, but until that law is there, there are ways in which we can also be able to make sure services are taking place and people are not put at disadvantage.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jotham. In short, ladies and gentlemen, together UNFPA with government, yes, it would be really unfair to wind this up without having, without winding it up, and while you kindly share from the.
Yeah, if it's still possible, I know more time. But yeah, I just wanted to respond on two things. Again, the question on the percentage, the number of girls not being able to say no. What I want to add to the discussion is that the 62% that Moses was referring to, there is such a complexity of factors behind that on why a girl might become pregnant, and why this impact unsafe sex. It could be violence, right? It could be also as a result of for example, early marriage and community pressure to really quickly get a child. It could also be because of poverty and transactional sex. It could also be peer pressure, as you say, not being able to say no, but this could be for boys and for girls. Girls and boys, and girls know that peer pressure. It could be because it was fear of the moment, people forget, what is sensible to do and use family then. There are so many different reasons behind that. And I think like population policies, we really need not to simplify. We really need to have all that specific and nuances, because every cause requires another solution and requires another strategy, both in prevention and response. I also wanted to say a very other important thing is that if we take young people as the core of the program, we really need not to think and to decide what they need, right, as adults. Because we as adults, look at us, we come from other other realities. We come from other realities and contexts, and we also might really have a very blurred memory of how it really was to be a young person. We tend to forget. We should not, make our strategies because of what we think that young people need, but what young people say they need and what they want. And then lastly, I would like to say something about many of the development partners that are working, of course, with government, working with the UN, and particularly, and as a result, also working with civil societies. They take a comprehensive approach. So now we have some specific questions, but I think that comprehensiveness is very important. If you have information, if you get the right information, but you don't have access to services, it's useless. If you have the information, even if you have access to services, with your environment, might be your parents, might be your community, might be your school, might be even your friends will stigmatize if you use it, still the information and the access to services is useless. So you really need that comprehensive approach. And for a comprehensive approach, you need a multi-sectoral approach. And I think we talk a lot about that. And also for the government of Uganda, of course, there is the Human Capital Development Program, which really puts, the sectors together. But as long as that multi-sectoral approach is not really put into practice, and all the different line ministries still really have difficulties to find each other, you will still have activities that say are combined, but they're just individual, and you put a rope around it and you say, well, now it's one program. So also as development partners, we really feel it's important to really strengthen that multi-sectoral approach, and that the working group and the lead working groups to really bring the sectors together within the human capital development need to be strengthened and need to be invested in. Then lastly, and I think it's mentioned already before, investment is of course crucial. And we see, and there is of course new planning going on, and there will be a new strategic plan, national plan. There will not be a change, and there will not be a reaping the demographic dividend if there is not a real investment and contributions in the crucial ministries and the work they do, the programming in education, in health, in youth employment, in social protection. And that's really a plea for an increase of these funds. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Clearly, 8 billion, a world of infinite possibilities. In short, the case for rights and choices. It is what we are saying. And what a tripartite, we go on and innovatively include the private sector on, this kind of tripartite, the government, UNFPA, and the development partners to deliver a world where every pregnancy is wanted, every childbirth is safe, and every young girl's or woman's life potential is fulfilled. Thank you so much. It has been quite a dialogue, and stakeholders present, we shall take the conversation on henceforth, but at this point in time, may I request that we symbolically now execute the purpose why we are here, to commemorate and launch the State of the World Population Report. George is here. George and team, I would like your support. Kindly let us we are standing up to launch. Neighbors, we are still seated, just before you go here. We are just going to launch the State of the World Population Report. George and team, I need you to. George and Before you go, the video is going to play in short. Let's take this Excuse me. launch the State of the World Population Report, and by launching we shall be, ladies and gentlemen, joined by the development partner representative, government of Uganda. The country rep will actually cut the ribbon in commemoration of the launch of the State of the World Population Report. Yes, please. You want to come? One on each side. May I request the deputy country rep? Let's sandwich Florence in charge of the population and development services in this office.
Young people.
We shall have a group picture here. Lilibet, come close to. Okay, on camera, are we ready? On camera. So should I go? Yes. Okay, at the count of 3, we will.
At the count of 8.
8 billion. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It's officially launched. The State of the World Population 2023 is officially
George, please come and join. I would like to us to have a group thing. Josephine. Young people, let's
Saya akazero akawuli. You want everybody in the world.
Okay, let's hold our books with the big smiles for the contact moment. Doreen, you might need a selfie for you. Thank you so much. One more item. Ladies and gentlemen, one more item. Breakfast is served on my right. Lunch. Thank you. Starting with lunch. With the guests.